What is going on, y'all? Gamers Goon here today, and we are sticking with the NBA content. This is not an NBA mock draft video, though, so if you did click on here for a mock draft, you'll probably get one later this week. Only about 2-ish weeks until the NBA draft, so the content will be flowing on in. Now, with that being said, this video is a wish list for the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls, we've heard a lot of rumors lately about trades with Vucevic, with Lonzo Ball, maybe even Javon Carter in a deal, hopefully Patrick Williams in a deal. But right now, we don't have a guarantee of anything. So I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, let's give you a mock draft of who we're getting at 12 and who we're getting, I think, at like 45 or 46, I think it is. That's not what this video is. This video is just names that I would consider. We have potential to trade into the first round with Vooch maybe, with Lonzo Ball and Javon Carter. What you can get out of them? Is it just a player? Maybe you could get maybe a second round pick. I'm just going to give you names that I think could fit what the Bulls are planning to do. Now, once again, we are just going to take the top guys off the board. You're not trading up for Cooper Flagg. You're not trading up for Dylan Harper. You're not trading up for Ace Bailey. You don't have the assets to do it. I mean, your best bet would be pairing 12 with maybe Vucevic or maybe even Lonzo. And then is that even enough without giving up something really, really good for the future? I don't know. Probably not. Because, I mean, there are some teams up at the top that are going to compete, right? This is not I'm just getting the names off the board. Trey Johnson will not be there. I just want the names on the board. This is all we're going for, is getting the names on the board. We're going to play it best case scenario that Maluach is available. I'm just taking guys that I don't think the Bulls would necessarily be interested in. I don't think Fears would be on their board. That's pretty much everybody that I can guarantee will not be there. I mean, Conkanipple, Maluach, long shots to make it. I know they are long shots, but they could maybe make it to 12. So just these are the names we're looking at. Let me just throw in random guys that aren't. I don't think Joseph Tugler's even in this draft class anymore. I just want to throw in these random guys so I can show you the Bulls roster and what we could potentially be looking at with this roster going forward if we are the Chicago Bulls. We'll throw in John Mobley. And then last but not least, we'll probably throw in Ben Henshaw. There we go. So none of these guys are getting picked where I have them. Maybe the top guys. But just to entertain the idea, I don't think the Bulls are trading up. So I'm not going to go out and say anything crazy like Cooper Flagg. He's my wish list, right? He's on everybody's wish list. It ain't happening. It ain't going to happen. Maybe Kobe White's on the move also. Maybe that could help you trade up. But here are some guys, and we're going to start off at the point guard position. We're going to look at the point guards already on the Bulls. Lonzo Ball, somebody we already talked about in this video, potentially a trade candidate. I know the Mavericks have some interest. I believe there were some other teams that had some interest. I believe the Grizzlies at the deadline had some interest, and I think that pick ended up becoming the 18th overall pick. Trey Jones, he's an upcoming free agent. I like him. I don't know if he'll be around. I'm not planning on Trey Jones being back, so I'm not drafting as if he is a guarantee on this roster. Javon Carter hasn't really been what you hoped for. Not a big deal in terms of his contract. Easily could pair it with something and open up a roster spot. Now, Javon Carter, would he be a bonus to maybe a Vucevic trade or maybe a Lonzo trade? I don't know. But yeah, figure Javon Carter, you're trying to ship him off in some situation. So point guard wise, really going into next year, you assume Josh Giddey's re-signed. Kobe, I know it has Kobe White here. He's going to be your shooting guard. Josh Giddey is your true point guard. And then you're having Kobe or Ayo kind of run some point guard if Giddey isn't it. If you aren't confident Lonzo, Javon Carter, or Trey Jones are back. So that gives me, I kind of still like the idea of Alonzo Ball, a two-way player. And a guy I really like is kind of this jumbo package guard here out of Duke, Tyrese Proctor. I know he's a second-round pick. I'm not saying you're doing it at 12. But he's a second-round pick for a reason, right? I think he's a junior, right? Yeah, he's a junior. But he is a guy that was really, really successful at Duke last season. I think he tries to be too physical with centers and big forwards. I like that out of my guards. I don't want my guards to back down. I like the switchable defenders. I like guys that are going to be a little bit more up and in you defensively. And I think he has those skills. I think as a offensive player, he's nowhere near what Lonzo Ball is, and I don't necessarily think you need him to be as a backup guard. I think right here you're getting a guy that can give Josh Giddey a little bit of breathing time, and he's a guy that he's going to play physical, he's going to wear you down, and he's going to be a guy that you can really trust to go in off the bench and not overstep kind of what you have set out for him in the game plan. I don't think he's a guy that's going to go in there and get trigger happy from the 3-point line. I don't think he's a guy that's going to go in there and just want to take over offensively. I think he will play within the offense, and I think when you're looking at losing guys like Lonzo, Trey Jones, and Javon Carter, the thing that really makes Lonzo that different breed for us, the thing that we were hoping Javon Carter would bring was that physicality defensively, good basketball IQ, and I think Tyrese Proctor has that. Now, I do think that obviously they are a step down from those two. Tyrese Proctor is, but he is a guy that you can get in. I'd be comfortable playing him as the backup guard year one, and you have some time to develop. I get he's a junior, but he's still only 21 years old. By the time he's done with his rookie contract, usually second round picks get about a 2-year, maybe a 3 or 4 year deal. But at most, he's 25 years old when he's said and done with his rookie contract. So I think you still have a lot of time to develop Tyrese Proctor into becoming that starting caliber player, but I do think he is somebody that could find a role on a Billy Donovan team that's kind of searching for some physicality on the defensive end early on in the season, and especially if you're getting rid of Lonzo, Javon Carter, guys that were supposed to hang their hats on defense. Lonzo, obviously, we know the struggles of staying on the court, and Javon Carter really hasn't been on the court for us simply because he hasn't been that guy for Billy Donovan. Billy Donovan really, Javon Carter, when he's gotten opportunities, hasn't blown anybody away. Javon Carter, I think, just needs a change of scenery. Lonzo Ball, if Lonzo Ball is healthy, the other team could probably win the trade. I'm going to be honest with you. Lonzo Ball, when healthy, is a really good player. You're not going to be able to find that in this class necessarily. At least on the defensive end. I think Tyrese Proctor would be a solid option. These guys, this group, Todd Pettiford would have been fun. LeBaron Filan obviously would have been fun, but those guys aren't in this class anymore. I do know Mark Sears was an option that the Bulls brought in. He is not a guy that I think you draft necessarily. If he's if he's on the summer league team, great. If you get him as an undrafted free agent, great. I would not be spending a draft pick on Mark Sears for this team specifically, because I don't need the scoring point guard really. I need defense on this team. And that's where I also look at a guy, 6'5", Hunter Salas. Now, I don't think he will play point guard. I think Tyrese Proctor a little bit more well off to play point guard. But I do think Hunter Salas is a guy here that could kind of just fill out that role behind Kobe and be not necessarily an IO caliber player, but can be that three-point shooter, can be a solid defensive player. He's really going to have to hang his hat defensively in the NBA early on in his career. Ceiling borderline all-star. I don't know. Once upon a time, I believe Hunter Salas was a 5-star recruit. He played at Gonzaga. Didn't work out there, and he had to transfer. Float game, that's something. And pull-up threat, that's something that we would like. If you do get a Jalen Williams out of him, that's great. That really is. But once again, what I'm really looking for in a guard here, if I am to draft a guard for the Chicago Bulls, I am looking for a guy that does not overstep his boundaries in terms of coming into the game and taking shots away from Kobe White, Modest Buzelis. I don't need you to be a 10, 15 point scorer. Not at this point of your career. And I don't think either Hunter Salas or Tyrese Proctor would be that. I think both of those guys would be similar to Io, where early on in their career, in order to get on the court, they're going to have to hang their hats on defense. And I think you could see a very similar trajectory that you had with Io with either of those two guys. I think early on, you're going to have some of the nice offensive performances because, yes, Hunter Salas was, I think it was like an 18-point per game scorer at Wake Forest. Tyrese Proctor obviously played at Duke, had to defer a lot to some of those guys, but he's also a very solid offensive player. You're going to have those games where they can go get you 20 points their rookie year. I don't think that is going to necessarily need to be the consistent thing, though. I think it could be very similar to Io, where you're really developing defensively year one. You're working on developing your three-point shot because obviously if you want to be on the court at the same time as Josh Giddey, the spacing, you will need to have a three-point shot. And that might be a little bit where Hunter Salas has a little bit of an edge on Tyrese Proctor there for the Bulls. But I still like both guys simply because early on in their careers, they are guys that are going to have to hang their hats on defense. They're going to be guys that, in order to be contributors for this Bulls team, will be kind of filling that Lonzo Javon Carter role. We haven't seen too much out of Lonzo the last couple of years because he's been hurt. I don't think the offense with either of these guys is going to be similar to Lonzo, at least at the first year or two of their careers. I'm not saying they can't develop into more, but Lonzo, when the Bulls were at their peak back in 2021, was one of the better players in the league the way he was playing. So, I mean, you got two guys here that I would be really, really interested in if I am the Chicago Bulls, simply because they're not necessarily on Lonzo's level, but they are those kind of guards that I think can play with inside the system, and I think they'd be good complementary pieces to Josh Giddey and Kobe White. And you really, if you are committed long term to this Kobe White, Josh Giddey backcourt, you are gonna need guards that can defend off the bench that you could put in with one or the other of Kobe or Josh Giddey at times, because both of them on the court aren't necessarily great defenders. They try defensively, but neither of them have really been great defenders throughout their career to this point. And you're hoping maybe things can change there with those guys. So, and please don't trade Kobe. I know there is some talk about trading Kobe, but I don't necessarily want it to happen. Shooting guard, all right, man. I think it's actually reasonable to talk about a lot of these guys, especially because, and if you didn't see already, I didn't talk about Jace Richardson because he's not really on my wish list. I don't really want the first round guard. Those guys aren't going to be on my wish list. I will, however, talk about the wings. Con Knipple would be a dream scenario. You kind of have this weird thing with Modest where you might move him to the 3, but the one thing that's lacking with Modest is the 3-point shooting. Con Knipple is probably, if not the best 3-point shooter in this draft. Does he make it to pick 12? Probably not, but I can see a scenario where Con Knipple, who, I mean, he's a really good shooter, a really good defender, but I don't know if he has an elite quality to him, and I don't necessarily know exactly what the fullest potential of Con Knipple looks like. I think you might see some teams pass on a guy like Con Knipple. But you look at the way he plays the game of basketball. At times, he was able to be Duke's number one option. Who is his NBA comparison? Just out of curiosity. They did not give him a comparison, of course. But he is a guy that I think some Tyler Hero to Luke Kennard. That'd be great, by the way. I think he's probably a better defender early on in his NBA career than maybe Tyler Hero. But you look at Con Knipple. Con Knipple will be able to stretch the floor. He would be a great fit alongside Josh Giddey. Defensively, he would probably be. It depends who you get at the center position, but probably one of your best starting defensive players. Modest is a developing defensive player, and I think maybe he could become the best defensive player on that team in the starting lineup. But Knippel would immediately be one of the better defensive players on the team. He'd probably be your best shooter, your true shooter. I know Kobe White can shoot the three. I think Knippel's calling card will more so be a shooter on this team. So Knippel would be a dream scenario at 12. It is a wish list video. I did want to highlight Knippel as a potential option. I know the Bulls have a lot of interest in Yegor Dimon. To me, he's too similar to Giddey. I don't want nothing to do with Yegor Dimon. And, I mean, if the Bulls draft him, I'll support him. I'm not ever going to root against my Chicago Bulls players. And same with the Bears, and same with... I actually am wearing a Rangers baseball shirt right now, but I am a Cardinals fan. I'm not a bandwagon. My family lives in Texas. That's how I acquired this shirt. But anyways, I don't necessarily need a Yegor Dimon, a Jace Richardson. I'm not necessarily in need of these kind of guards. Jace Richardson, I think there is a lot of two-way potential there. I just don't think you need a first-round guard necessarily. Knippel, like I said, can play that wing. Yegor Dimon, really, really thin right now. 6'9", might be able to play some three. I just think I'm not drafting a player that I don't know can really make that adjustment. Next, I don't know if it's at 12, but a guy I really liked out of college was Neek Clifford. Neek Clifford is a do-it-all kind of guy. Rebound, pass, assist, score. Look at these stats. Stuff the stat sheet there at Colorado State. Now, your question is, yeah, he played at Colorado State. But I think when you're getting a guy like this, he is just an every possession kind of player. Jaime Jaquez connect of this draft? I don't know about that. To say he's a late bloomer, by the way, is ridiculous because this guy was on my radar about 2 years ago out of this Colorado State team. Yeah, but he's the do-it-all kind of guy. I think shooting, he would be able to play well on the outside for Giddey to get the ball to. I think defensively, he will give you some good possessions defensively. He's a good passer. He'll attack the boards like a rebounder. He is a guy, yes, right here, Josh Hart. That is who he reminds me of. I think he might be a better shooter than Josh Hart. But to me, this is your kind of guy that you have on your team and you would fall in love with them immediately. Like, you look at the Bulls of the past, when you brought in Alex Caruso started playing for the Bulls, everybody was a Caruso fan because he just did so much for the team. He might not have been the flashiest in terms of putting up 20 points or maybe 10 assists or anything crazy like that. He just did a lot of things really, really well. He hustled every single play. I'm not saying Neek Clifford is an Alex Caruso in a sense of just defensive impact or anything like that, but I do think more so like a Josh Hart. Maybe a little bit of AirPods to him and Brandon Podziemski, but to me, Neek Clifford would be the ideal player to have on this roster. If you're talking about a roster that is really young at the moment and is kind of looking like they're going to try to maybe get to this push where they're going to start being a playoff team. They've been a play-in team for a few seasons now. You got this young core with Modest, Kobe, Josh Giddey. You have Iota Sumo in there. Obviously, you have Vooch, who you're trying to move. Lonzo. We're hearing that those names have been... We're finally, it seems like we're shopping those guys. More so than just listening, it sounds like we might actually get the job done and trade those guys. Neek Clifford, I think, if you are in this point of this rebuild where you are ready to take that next step and become a playoff team, maybe a 5th seed, a 6th seed, to make that jump, if that is the point that you are at, with the moves you make, with the trades of Lonzo, Javon Carter, Vooch, if you can somehow get off a Patrick Williams contract, this is your kind of guy. This is a kind of guy that I would not be mad at the Bulls for picking. because he reminds me so much of Josh Hart. I think he's just a guy that will lay it all on the line, and I think as an offensive player, he's probably a little bit better than Josh Hart, because I do think when you look at Neat Clifford, that three-point game will come into play, and I think he'll probably hit it at a little bit higher of a rate than maybe Josh Hart has so far in his NBA career. I'm a big fan of Neat Clifford. I'm a big fan of him. You play him at the 3, and I think he would also be a solid defender as well. Neat Clifford would be a wonderful pick, but you're probably not picking him at 12. But if you can maybe trade back in, maybe to that, from whatever the Magic pick I think is 16 to maybe one of the Nets picks. I don't know. I think the Nets pick at maybe 19. I think it is. If you can trade up into that range, I think you can comfortably get Neat Clifford. The problem is if you wait and maybe trade back up with one of the later Nets picks, which is 26 and 27, I believe, or maybe it's 25 and 26. Either way, if you trade it to maybe one of those later first-round picks, I don't know that you're getting Neat Clifford, but he's a guy that I would love on this team. Another guy that I'm going to be honest, at the start of this process, I was not so high on Cedric Coward. I was a little bit skeptical because he was a guy that, like Patrick Williams, has shot up boards. I do think this is a different player. I do think defensively, once again, that's going to be his calling card. You look at the length of him, a 7'2 wingspan. A 7'2 wingspan at 6'5 is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. You're looking here at a guy that will be able to have his hands in every passing lane. You're looking at a guy that immediately gets on the court as a defender, and then I think he stays on the court because you have a guy in Josh Giddey that is looking for weapons on the perimeter. Cedric Coward's a pretty good three-point shooter. He is a guy that a lot of people are talking about. If he had a full season at Washington State, probably would have been a guaranteed like top 10, if not lotto pick. But he didn't play the whole season. He got injured. He's a guy that there is some risk to. He's a senior that has a lot of potential. He's came along, obviously, at Washington State for the few games they got to see him. But I think this is another guy where you look at the Bulls and what they need. They need spacing. They need defense. And right now, I'm looking at Cedric Coward as that true 3-and-D guy. Is it 12 that you pick him? I don't know. Is he going to actually go lotto? I know there's been a lot of buzz about him going that. And then there's been buzz about him not. And then maybe sliding back down to maybe around the 20 range. He's a guy that has been kind of all over the place in terms of where people think of him at. And for good reason. It's a small sample size from last year of what he can be. But I do think if you're really trusting what he has been, you're looking at a good three-point shooter. You need that alongside Josh Giddey. Simply put enough, if you're going to be playing the style that Billy Donovan has played the last couple of years, trying to get up and down the court, take threes, do all that, you need a guy that can knock them down. Cedric Coward delivers that. You also need to get better defensively, and you look at a guy with the wingspan and with the tools of a Cedric Coward, I think he's a guy that you would really, really be interested in. And if you could get a Mikal Bridges out of here, I think that'd be great. I think that could be a great pickup for a guy here in Cedric Coward. I don't know if I'd call him Mikal Bridges. Maybe a lesser version of Mikal Bridges at this point, but very, very good defensive player. I think he'll be able to knock down the three ball. I don't think he'll command 5 first-round picks like Mikal Bridges did at one point, but he's a guy I'd be interested in. I'd be interested in Will Riley simply because he played at Illinois and he really impressed me at Illinois. At times, he was the better player between him and Kasper Shakashonis. He is a tough shot maker. If you look at Ace Bailey and think Ace Bailey is the tough shot maker that he is, if you like that out of Ace Bailey, you're going to like it about Will Riley. Will Riley, I think, might be a little skinnier than Ace Bailey and a little bit more chaotic in the way he plays the game. But for the most part, was not a big issue at Illinois, and at times was the best player on that Illinois team. He kind of needs to fill out his frame a little bit more. Not necessarily a guy I'm talking about the Bulls as drafting, but a guy that I really like because obviously played at my Illinois, and I've seen him play multiple times at this point. But another guy I would be really, really excited for the Bulls to draft is Walter Clayton Jr. If you have been living under a rock, you need to go watch the championship run of Walter Clayton Jr. I think if you're truly considering maybe replacing Kobe White, or you're truly considering just going all in with these a little bit older players that are just going to be strong NBA players early on in their careers, I do think this is your guy right here. I don't think he'll make it, so you'd have to trade back up. But this is if this is the one guy that offensively I would want. Defensively, I'm gonna be honest. He's not the defender of some of the guys we talked about. He's not that guy. He's not that guy defensively. He'd fit more so the Kobe role than anything else. But this is a wish list. We're talking about a potential move of Kobe White. If you do make that move, I would be interested in Walter Clayton. This guy's a winner. This guy at Florida last year won a national championship. He is a good three-point shooter. I think he might need to be a little bit more so ball dominant on this team, which kind of negates the whole playing off Josh Giddey thing. But a guy I really like. A guy that I would just take and figure out the fit later. I would have loved Ian Jackson on this team, by the way. I'm a big Ian Jackson fan. I think he has some really good potential. And then we're going to get into, I would love Darian Williams as well, but I'm fairly confident he's going back to college. Then we're going to get into Kobe Brea. 6'7" shooting guard out of Kentucky. He is, once again, in this role of just being a guy, decent playmaker, good shooter. You need that 3-and-D kind of player. I think he is a guy here that is going to be more so not the D side of the 3-and-D. I think he has the length and maybe the wingspan to maybe become a decent 3-and-D player. But really, you're looking at him early on as the stretch guy for Josh Giddey, hit out on the wing, hit a three-pointer here and there. I could really see somebody like Kobe Brea. He is not going to be anything crazy early on in his career. If you could get a Joe Ingles, Duncan Robinson comp out of him, he is going to be a solid player. I'm looking for those kind of guys right now that can stretch the court and that can be legitimate kick-out options for Josh Giddey. Kobe Brea is that. I think he is more so that right now than Dalen Terry, than Patrick Williams, some of those threes that you have. Maybe a little bit more so than Kobe White even. Kobe White at times needs to he can get hot from the catch and shoot. I do really think, though, that right now Kobe Brea would probably be one of the better catch and shoot kind of players on the team if you were to take him. Is there anybody else we need to talk about from the guard position? No. We'll go to small forwards and we'll go to power forwards and centers. Carter Bryant's not on my wish list. Noah Sangay, not on my wish list. Liam McNeely, not on my wish list. All guys the Bulls could potentially actually take. Hugo Gonzalez, I like the player. But I don't necessarily love the fit on the Bulls necessarily. Adu Thero, I'm a big fan of Adu Thero. But I don't know when you have Modest on your team. Probably not. Modest's three-point shot still developing. Adu Thero, at this point of his career, more so just a downhill player, really good defender. I think he'll have some highlight dunks and stuff like that early on in his NBA career, but not a guy that can really stretch the court at the moment. Noah Penda is another one that I don't know too much about Noah Penda, to be honest with you, but he could potentially be an interesting option for the Bulls. Drake Powell, that's the other big name in Bulls in Bulls discussions at the moment. Drake Powell. And you look at Drake Powell, he is sort of under that same kind of mold of Patrick Williams, of Dalen Terry, where you're looking at a guy that not as little as crazy. But you're looking at a guy that's going to make his mark defensively. He's going to be making his mark defensively. He's a guy that right now, probably a better defender than offensive player. But I think offensively, he projects to be more than Patrick Williams. I think offensively, he projects to be more than Dalen Terry as well. And I do think that you can have him play offside or on the catch and shoot alongside Giddey. I really do. I think he is a better three-point shooter than Dalen Terry and Patrick Williams, at least at the moment, simply because Patrick Williams is just, he lacks so much confidence, has all the tools, just lacks the ability to go out there and put it to paper. And then Dalen Terry, obviously we know he was a little bit of a project to begin with. Hasn't fully worked out. Sounds like we might be moving on from him at the next season. But this is the high upside Dalen Terry-esque pick here. I think defensively, he will be what Dalen Terry is right now, which is Dalen Terry's a solid defender. Don't get it wrong. Dalen Terry has turned out to be a solid defender. The offense hasn't came around for Dalen Terry necessarily. I think Drake Powell gives you what Dalen Terry gives you year one. What he currently gives you, you're getting year one. He might spend some time in the G League to develop offensively, but I do think this is a guy that long term will be a better wing option for the Bulls, because it doesn't sound like you're really interested in bringing Dalen Terry back. It doesn't sound like Patrick Williams is going to be in the rotation. You need a really good defensive wing. I think he delivers that for you. I think there's room to grow defensively, but I do think he delivers at least Dalen Terry quality defense early on in his NBA career. And then you're hoping that three-point shot can be maybe around 40%, and you're going to be in some good company if you can get him to be that. Now, what is his NBA comp? And Isaac Okoro, I like that comp. I like the Isaac Okoro comp. Guy that's really made a name for himself on the defensive end, like I said, with the guards of this team. You really, really need a defensive weapon. I don't even think Alex Caravan's in this class. Dink Pate, really fun NBA 2K rebuild option, by the way. But I would love Isaiah Evans. Not in this class, unfortunately. RJ Luis is in this class. I'm gonna put him on the list. I'm gonna put him on the list of the wish list. I do like RJ Luis's offensive game. I do. I don't necessarily know if that is your best option if you are the Bulls, because he will command shots. You look at how he played at St. John's last year. He's a big-time scorer. Look, his last game was really, really bad. But he will get shots up. He'll try to rebound for you. This is more so, to me, obviously he's not the same position. This would be your Jordan Clarkson. This would be your bench guy that can come in and light the stat sheet up, get some really, really good points up there, put up 10, 15 points off the bench. Defensive beast, amazing in transition. I'd be getting him offensively, though. I would really be. Also, if you played for St. John's last year, their whole team was nasty defensively. But I think right now, RJ Luis would be this guy that you get in, and I don't think you have the Patrick Williams syndrome of he's kind of afraid to take his shot at times. RJ Luis will put the shot up. He will put the shot up. And if you're looking for a Patrick Williams replacement in terms of, hey, we have this really good toolsy player in Patrick Williams that just can't put it all together. We've never really seen Patrick Williams become aggressive. RJ Luis, I don't necessarily know is going to start to be this star that you thought Patrick Williams could become. I don't necessarily think that of RJ Luis, but I can tell you right now that he could be that microwave scorer for you off the bench. And if you're looking for a guy that doesn't have any fear and is willing to put up the shots and is willing to be aggressive at times when you need him to, when you have Josh Giddey in there who He doesn't necessarily love putting up 10, 15 shots a game. He will. When he needs to score 20, 30 points, he will. But that's not really where I think Giddey really likes to play his game. He likes to be the playmaker. He likes to take his opportunities when they're given, but he likes to be able to be the one kind of orchestrating the offense. RJ Luis, off ball, getting around, hitting some mid-rangers, hitting a three-pointer here or there. RJ Luis would be a really, really solid option off the bench, if you ask me. I do think that he would be yet another guy in this era of the Bulls team that will start in the G League like Modest did, and I think he'll probably find a role on the team after the All-Star break and really lock in as kind of just being his specialty of coming in, being that microwave guy, giving you some solid defense. But RJ Luis, a guy I'm really, really interested in if I'm the Chicago Bulls and if I were drafting for them. Mackenzie Mbako, shout out to him. I won't be talking about him necessarily. Current Illinois player, Andrei Stojakovic. Baba Miller, he's felt like he's supposed to be drafted like 6 years ago. Power forward. CMB, y'all know I love CMB. The more I think about it, the more I don't necessarily think it's a fit. Modest at this point isn't stretching the floor at the greatest. I mean, you're hoping the three-point shot comes around with Modest, but at this point, Modest is getting a lot of his work going downhill. The spacing with CMB would kind of clog things up. And the best thing right now for this Bulls team is to not hinder the development of Josh Giddey, Kobe White, or Modest Buzelis. That is your big three at the moment. I know it's not a legit big three, but those are the three guys you're looking to build around. The three guys you're really trying to see if they are the future of this team. CMB, I think, clogs it up a little, so he's not really an option. But Asa Newell, we know he's been on a workout with the Bulls already. He is a guy that is a solid shooter. I'm hearing that he's did fairly well in his shooting drills with the Bulls in their workout with them. I think defensively, this is your guy that if you're looking for a big man, he's going to block shots. He's going to be not necessarily Daniel Gafford defensively, but I do see a lot of similarities. Athletic, going to block shots on the interior. I really like what he can bring on the inside. Can we see a potential comparison? Wendell Carter, a guy you obviously know he drafted, but he does have that ability to stretch the floor. He does have that ability to maybe guard more so out of his position. He's 6'10", I think. I know it says 6'11" on here, but I think he's more so close to 6'10". Might be asked to play some center. I know he isn't particularly excited to play center, but you look at a guy like Asa Newell. He can defend the 5. He can defend the 4. I think there are some threes that he can defend in the NBA. The Bulls love their switchable defenders. The shot has been, from what I understand, looking really solid for Asa Newell. And he is not a guy that I worry about of having this Patrick Williams syndrome. He's a guy that at times for Georgia was like the only thing going for Georgia. And when I'm looking and drafting players, I want like the heart and soul of teams, right? If I can get somebody like that that's just going to lay it all out there, and I think Asa Newell will, that's what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in guys that defer. Yes, they're toolsy players, and you're hoping you can develop them. I'm not necessarily interested in that kind of player. But an Asa Newell, a guy that really cares about the game, a guy that his shot has been developing and looking really solid. Defensively, I think he's going to block a lot of shots. I don't necessarily know if he's going to be more so physical. I think you might need to see him maybe get a little bit more physicality into his game, but I do think early on in his NBA career, he could be very similar to a Daniel Gafford, be a lob threat early, be a guy that can get some shot blocks in the paint. If you come into the paint, it ain't going in because Asa Newell will leap out of the gym and swat it back to whatever city the team came from. If you're from Boston and the Celtics are playing us, he'll swat it back to Boston. So Asa Newell, a guy I'm really, really excited, could be the option for the Bulls. I would like Rasheer Fleming for similar reasons as to why I like Asa Newell. I think Asa Newell is the better athlete. Rasheer Fleming being a little bit older than Asa Newell as well. He can stretch the court, or he's a solid defender. I don't necessarily know if the Bulls would be in play here, but he's a guy that, once again, is going to be early on, the stretch, the ability to stretch the court's great. Early on in their careers with Asa Newell and in here with Rasheer Fleming as well, you're going to be a guy that defends. You're going to be a guy that's defending. I think here with Rasheer Fleming, Asa Newell is really solid defensively in terms of, I think he'll be a good shot blocker at the next level. I do think Rasheer Fleming's a little bit better of a defender at this point. I think he's a little bit more physical than you're going to see with Asa Newell. But he's a guy right here that is really exciting to have for a team in that late top 20-ish. If you can get like him at like 18 or maybe at 19 if you're the Nets or whoever, I'd be really excited walking out with Rasheer Fleming because I do think he projects to be a good NBA player. Can we even get a comp on him? Jeff Green, don't love it. Don't love that comp. Can we get a good comp? Yeah, like a Tari Eason. That's a good one. A good one. Really hangs his hat defensively. He was developing his scoring coming into the league. I do think Rasheer Fleming won't be asked too much offensively too early on. We'll have to hit his open threes when he gets the chance. But you're talking about a guy here in Rasheer Fleming that would be really solid defensively early on in his NBA career. Like, if you haven't been told or haven't seen it yet, I'm interested in guys that defend really well. Johnny Broome, he's another one. Out of Auburn, a little bit undersized at that center position. If you're looking for guys right now, post-Vooch era, that can play the big man position, good passer, he's going to rebound, he's going to be a good scorer. I think he'll be a little bit better defensively than Vooch. I don't think he'll be the shot blocker that Vooch is, but I do think he'll be a little bit better defensively getting around than Vooch. He's a guy that, for the most part, has been asked to be the franchise of that Auburn team, right? He's a guy that I'm not really worried about in terms of being that kind of guy that comes in, defers, and just becomes another guy on the NBA team. I think Johnny Broome could be a guy that walks in day one. You might not be the starter, but fits that Iowa role of, I'm going to bust my tail. I want to be on a winning team. You've seen it. He started off, I forget, didn't he play at Morehead State, I believe? Started off at a smaller school, worked his way up to Auburn, made Auburn one of the title contenders. They were a title contender with Johnny Broome as their best player. I think you can see a similar trajectory in the NBA of he might not have the biggest role year one. He might not have the biggest role year two, but year 3, year 4, he's becoming this solid starter on a team that's constantly in the playoffs. Broome, like I said, if you're looking post Vooch and trying to get rid of Vooch, I think Broome answers some questions. I don't think he answers them all. I don't think that he'll be the three-point shooter that Vooch has been. I don't necessarily think he'll be the shot blocker Vooch has been. But I think he might be better fit of just being an okay defender than Vooch. Because at times Vooch looks lost defensively. I never really got that feeling from Broome watching them play. I mean, he's a little bit undersized to play center, so you might see him even at the 4. But he'd be a guy that would be really interesting there if you can find a way to get him. Is there anybody else at this power forward position that might be interesting? I don't even know Grant Nelson's still in the NBA draft. Coleman Hawkins, a guy that has seemingly always been entering the NBA draft and then withdrawing. If you're looking for toolsy players, Coleman Hawkins can stretch the floor and get shot blocks. Just hasn't really ever all put it together. Again, another Illinois player. And like I said, Concanipo is a dream scenario. This is your other dream scenario. Is Kaman Malawach being on the board. Kaman Malawach would be everybody's dream if you are a Bulls fan. Should be everybody's number one wish list item. You need a center. You have Kamal Malawach, who will be a good defensive center year one. He will block shots. I think probably a little bit better than Vooch. that's really where he's going to make his money early on, is defensively. He is a guy that a lot of people kind of bring up Luol Deng when talking about him as kind of coming in, being this defensive guy early on, but having a developing offensive game as well. Rudy Gobert for his defensive dominance. Dikembe Mutombo. Can I find the Luol Deng thing? Or is that just bull circles that I've talked about him being? Luol Deng. I'm not going to find Luol Deng. But either way, for this point of his career, he's an okay shooter for being a big man. But like I said, you really need to get locked in defensively. Maluach brings you that. He brings you that right away. He's going to get probably about a block and a half, 2 blocks a game, maybe even more than that. Just started playing basketball. Didn't play too long ago. I think he started in his teenage years, like 4 or 5 years ago. He started playing. A guy that has really, really started to put it all together, right? You have all these tools, being the 7'2", lengthy player. He's making his money defensively, being that shot blocker, being that guy on the interior, showing off his athleticism. And then you have a guy that's developing his jump shot. You have a guy that, for the most part, I think long-term projects to be a really, really good player. If you're looking at last year's draft, not to say this is last year's quality of draft, I think Kaman Maluach could have been maybe in that top 5 last year, because you look at him, he kind of strikes me like very similar to like an Alexander Sarr, where defensively, he's what you expect. Lengthy, big, he's going to be a solid defender. He'll block shots. And then you have the ability to maybe stretch the floor a little bit. He does remind me a little bit of Alex Sarr in a sense. So if you were interested then, I think you should be interested now. I think Maluach has an extreme amount of potential, but this would be the number one option if you are the Bulls. I know there's rumors going around that Yegor Dimon is their number one guy. My number one prospect on the Bulls board would be Kaman Maluach. I don't know how you would get him at 12. You might have to trade up. You might have to hope he falls. I don't know. He would be my number one pick. And for similar reasons, Thomas Sorber would be there as well. Yes, I know I skipped Derek Queen. I love Derek Queen as a player. The Bulls don't sound like they're super interested because of the defense, and I can understand it. But I do love Derek Queen as a player. But we're not going to talk about him this time. But we are going to talk about Thomas Sorber for very similar reasons that we talked about Maluach. I think defensively he will be able to play right away. He is a guy that, once again, is going to be a little bit more physical than maybe Maluach early on in his career, but he is a guy that defensively will be ready to play. He's also a guy that can shoot the 3 ball. If you're looking at Maluach and his ability to stretch the floor potentially, and then Sorber, his current ability to stretch the floor, if you're looking for post-Vooch era big man, you really want to lock in defensively, a guy like Sorber makes a lot of sense. You get the 3-point shooting that you had with Vooch. I don't know that he'll ever be as great as Vooch is at it. I mean, Vooch is one of the best 3-point shooting big men in the league. One of the best offensive centers in the league, actually. I know Vooch doesn't necessarily get the same amount of love because he's on the Bulls, but really, really good player in Vooch. Sorber's offensive game will need to get there, but I do think defensively will be better than Vooch right away. Offensively, it's going to take some time. It would be a little bit of a project, but he is a guy that would really, really be a solid pick for the Bulls if they can find their way to draft him. Let's see if we can get a Day'Ron Sharpe. I don't like that. I don't love that comparison. Xavier Tillman's not a horrible comparison. Rob Williams. Defensively, I can see Rob Williams. Offensively, no. There ain't no chance he's Rob Williams. Late first-round pick's crazy. Some Valanciunas for sure. I could see some Valanciunas in him. Marc Gasol. I don't know about that. Nurkic. I could see a little bit of Valanciunas in him. Yeah, for sure. Danny Wolf, a guy I really like. Once again, you're going to lack defensively. we're not really going to bring you up unless maybe we can get you in the second round. Jean Beringer is a guy that I'm starting to like here as well. I think if you do miss out on the Malawachs, the Sorbers, I think you get a good defensive player here, a guy that will be a shot blocker early on in his career. Offensively, will take time to get there. Is he a guy that needs to be in the G League? I'm not sure. But he's a guy that would have the ability to sit there and learn behind Stick Smith. And I mean, Stick Smith can stretch the floor pretty well, right? He's just not a great player for us, really. But he can stretch the floor a little bit. You can learn from him a little bit. You can take bits and pieces of that and maybe some of the Zach Collins ability to kind of do a little bit of everything well. If you can implement that and have Jean Beringer be that kind of guy for you, I think that would be a really good pick. Now, this is a guy that, for the moment, is very much so a project. He's a project. Jericho Sims, Nerlens Noel, very good athlete. Very good athlete. If you look at Nerlens Noel and Jericho Sims, what did they do? They blocked shots in the NBA. Offensively, will he ever get there? I don't know. This is not a guy that you're looking at pick 12 and really considering. I don't think, unless you have somebody telling you something that we haven't really heard yet. But right away, he is a guy that would have time to develop behind those two that I mentioned, Stick Smith, and then obviously Zach Collins, who's projected to be the starter of Vooch Lee's. And you're going to have to come in defensively and be that workhorse defensively. The offense will come at some point, but that is not where he's going to be really asked to provide early on in his NBA career. So he is a little bit of a project that I'd be interested in because of the defense. If we are to take a project, I just don't know that I could get there taking him in maybe the top 20 picks if you were to happen to trade back up into it. If you could maybe get him around that Nets second or the 26 or 27 pick that the Nets have, if you were able to trade with the Nets, I'd be interested in it. But I don't know if I'd take him top 20. It depends on how the board falls and what we did with our other pick or if we traded down or whatnot. Kalkbrenner, just defensively, not really too interested. Hanson Yang and Rocco Zikarsky are two guys that I don't know too much about from... I just know what's been kind of just seeing it hearsay. Yao meets Jokic is crazy. Imagine this guy's actually the next like Yao Ming Jokic hybrid. That'd be crazy. But once again, these are just two guys, really, really big. Perimeter defense, 3-point shooting. Alperen Sengun, that'd be great. Those are two guys that I don't know too much to speak on, but guys that I would watch out for if you're Bulls fans, because you look at these two, kind of these jumbo guys. They're 7'1" centers from the overseas game. The overseas players, for the most part, a lot of them have came into the league and been really successful. We've talked about Sengun. Obviously, you look at some of the best players in the league right now, the Luka Doncic's. There's a lot of guys right now. The Vooches even. The Vooches. There's a lot of guys right now that when they bring over that European game, they really succeed because they've had that experience of playing against pro competition for the majority of their basketball careers. So I'm not ruling out a Hanson Yang or a Rocco Zikarsky. I just can't talk too much about the player that they currently are because I have not done much other than just seeing them on Instagram and seeing what people say when the draft is mentioned. But some of these college players I've got a little bit more familiar with because I've obviously seen them play on TV this season. So there you have it. Though that's my big long wish list of guys that I would be relatively interested in. So for the most part, we didn't talk about CMB, Igor Dimon, Carter Bryant, Noah Senge, Jace Richardson, Liam McNeely. We didn't talk about Nolan Traore, Ben Seraph. We didn't talk about, but he might be an interesting option. Obviously, didn't talk about the guys that aren't in the draft. Hugo, we didn't talk about. Cam Jones, we didn't talk about. Noah Pinda, we didn't really talk about. Once again, another player I just don't know enough about to really speak on. Jean Beringer is a guy that I'm starting to familiarize myself with because you're kind of looking in kind of feels like the Bulls might not actually take a big man with that first pick. So you're looking at a guy maybe at 45. I'm starting to dig a little bit more into Zone Behringer. He is a guy that, for the most part, seems like will be a project. So you have him. Maxime Reynaud, I think, would be a solid Vooch replacement, but defensively, I don't know you're getting what you really are looking for. I just don't see this being the guy defensively. But if you're willing to play the stretch game, Kelly Olynyk, old Brook Lopez, he's just not really, I think, the guy defensively that you're progressing interior defense. I don't think you're going with a guy that's still working on it necessarily. I think if the Bulls are interested in projects, I think they'd be more so interested on the offensive side, because you look at this roster, losing Lonzo, Javon Carter potentially, not wanting to play Patrick Williams because it just hasn't worked out. Julian Phillips, another guy with some questions. Will he keep him around? Kevin Huerter, not a bad defender, but Giddey, Kobe, Ayo's been hurt, but Ayo's a solid defender. Giddey, Kobe aren't great defenders. You kind of need guys around them that can really lock in defensively. Dalen Terry doesn't sound like he's going to be around super long term. So for the most part, I think really what I'm getting at here, and let me know down below who your dream scenario is for the Bulls. But really what I'm getting at is the Bulls need to draft somebody with either of these two picks that can come in and play some defense. Because that's been one of my things about the Bulls, right? That's why Ayo is so valuable, and I don't think you would ever trade Ayo, simply because if you trade Ayo, who's playing defense? Not that I would ever want them to trade Ayo. Obviously, he's my boy. He played at Illinois. I got a signed jersey over there from Ayo. Like, don't trade my guy Ayo. But when those ideas are floated around, the question then becomes, why would you ever trade him? You don't have the opportunity to if you do have somebody coming in with like 2 or 3 first-round picks for him, because you don't have a defender on this team. Lonzo's not going to stay healthy. Javon Carter hasn't really been that guy. Kevin Huerter's okay, but you don't really want him being your lead defender. Modest Bazelis is developing his defense. Kobe and Josh Giddey are developing their defense. Patrick Williams was supposed to be a good defender, but played his way off the court. Zach Collins, Jalen Smith, there's nobody here defensively that scares me. I think you really lock in defensively. I would even double down on the defense. I'd double down on the defense. Obviously, you want to get a little bit of both worlds, somebody that can stretch the court, so you're not like going full-on defense, Colin Murray Boyles. But Asa Newell, as much as I don't really want Carter Bryant even. Rasheer Fleming, Thomas Sorber, Neat Clifford would be a great pick. Cedric Coward. Those are the kind of names I want to hear the Bulls picking. I don't want to see the Bulls go all in on a guard like Yegor Demon. Not to say Yegor Demon's a bad player. Once again, another player almost went to Illinois. But Yegor Demon, I watched him play last year because I was selfishly watching to see what we missed out on. Same with Jeremiah Fears. That's why I like Jeremiah Fears so much. And I'm actually a fan of Demon. I am a fan of Demon. I just don't really love the idea of him and Giddey being on the same team. So, Derek Queen, got to watch him, obviously, at Maryland. A player I didn't like playing against him. And I think those are the kind of players you need. It's the guys that just tick you off when you're playing against them. You can't stop them. But unfortunately, I don't think the Bulls are really interested. I don't necessarily think he's the defensive player you'd be looking for anyways, even if the Bulls were interested. So, yeah, I wouldn't be in on Liam McNeely, I'm going to be honest. To me, more so just rebound and getting some decent shots up, but I don't project him to be anything super special. Maybe I look back on this in like 3 years and think I'm an idiot, which if I do, shout out to future me. But yeah, I think really at 12 you'd be locking on probably Cedric Coward, then maybe Carter Bryant, Asa Newell. And if either of these guys are on there, I'm running up to the board. I'm running up to the board of Conkinip or Kamal Malash are there. Either of the Duke kids, I want them. And you know what? I'll take their fourth one also with Tyrese Proctor. Why did I say fourth? Because Cooper Flagg's off the board. I'll take their fourth one in Tyrese Proctor as well. So those are kind of my guys in terms of guys that I just wish the Bulls could find a way to lead. Shout out Kylan Boswell. Find a way to lead the draft with somebody in that group. Somebody in that group, man. I'd be excited for just one of them. Heck, just take one of my guys. I don't need you to think you're smart and try to go something crazy and think, you know what, we're outsmarting everybody. We're just going to go pick small forward because we need a small forward, and we're going to go in the first round at pick 12, we're going to take Alex Tui. I don't need that. I need the Bulls to lock in. That's what I need. I need them to lock in and do what is right, and what is right is to fix this team, man. You look at the team like the Knicks, right? Look at the Knicks. I know they just came up short in the playoffs, but that is what you are missing out on. Did you see how much New York came to support the Knicks during that playoff run? Did you see the culture and the passion that fan base brought? At times, it feels like the Bulls are kind of, I mean, we're just hoping that we'll go to the games, but we're just hoping that something's going to happen, that something's going to click, that somehow with this roster, we're going to be good. I think there's pieces on the roster, but you don't have the full thing figured out. You look at a team like the Pacers that's currently in the NBA Finals. You look at a team like OKC who rebuilt through the draft. The Pacers, on the other hand, has made some moves to get to where they are, right? You look at those teams. They're not teams, I mean, you have Tyrese, you have Shea. They're not teams that have 2 or 3 stars. I mean, maybe Jalen Williams. Maybe Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, right? Pascal Siakam's probably actually in that star category. But you don't have the LeBron Jameses and the Lukas and those two being in the finals together. You don't have the Bradley Beal, Kevin Durant, Devin Bookers in the finals. You have the well-rounded teams in the NBA Finals. And I think the Bulls they're close to being a consistent playoff team, but I don't necessarily think they're close to a championship. But those are two different things, right? But first you need to get to there. You need to get there, and then you got to figure out how do we maintain that? How do we elevate our players? I think this is a good stepping stone here in this draft if you are able to walk out with somebody that for the meantime can play on this Bulls team. Please do not draft 2 projects. You have 2. At 45, take a project. Or at 45, take the player that you know is going to play and take the unlimited upside guy at the first pick. I don't really care. Just give me something. Give me something to be excited about as a Bulls fan. I'm excited to have Josh Giddey back. I'm excited to have Kobe White back. I'm excited for Ayo Dosunmu to be potentially that 3, maybe a backup shooting guard. I'm excited for Modest's development. I named 4 people. 4 people. I'm excited for some potential trades with Lonzo. Maybe excited if Trey Jones comes back. I do like him. Javon Carter, I'd be excited if they traded him. Kevin Huerter I like, but I'm not excited to have him out there. Dalen Terry, I mean, shout out to him. He took a picture with me. No hate towards Dalen Terry whatsoever. I don't think he's in the long-term plans. Julian Phillips, I like him, but he's not somebody that I think is just you're super excited for his future. Patrick Williams, you've already seemingly given up on because, well, he's had 4 years to do something and he hasn't done anything. It's like that meme of poking it until it reacts, and he ain't reacted. I'm excited for a Vooch trade. Not super excited for Zach Collins and Jalen Smith. I do like Zach Collins. I do like Jalen Smith. Not super excited for him, though. Give us something in Chicago worth being excited for. We have pieces. We have pieces people want. You have Vooch, who has some trade value now. You have Modest, who seemingly could be that guy. You have Josh Giddey, who seemingly could be the true point guard of this team, of this franchise. You have Kobe White, who seemingly could be that star scorer on this team. You have Ayo, who seemingly could be that 3-and-D caliber player that comes in and starts on your team. But what you're lacking here is more depth, more quality NBA players. Right now, it's a hodgepodge of guards. Hodgepodge. Stop drafting guards. If you're going to draft guards, draft somebody that can contribute. Don't go and draft guys that are a year or two away from being an NBA player. I don't need you to draft another project in the guard position. The guard, if you're so gung-ho on Igor Dimon, so gung-ho on it, he better work out. Because I'm sick and tired of every single draft cycle. The Bulls want a guard. How many guards do you need? You have Giddey, you have Kobe. I mean, look at how many guards are on roster. Look at how many guards are on roster. Then you have big men. Then you have the big men. Your power forwards who? Modest? Your big men aren't great. Modest you're hoping can be. Vooch, you want to trade him. Your big men aren't great outside those two. At some point, you got to draft big men. So, figure it out, Chicago. Figure it out. Anyways, thank you for watching. Let me know down below who you think the Chicago Bulls should be interested in. Don't just tell me, hey, they should be interested in Malwatch. I agree. Let me know somebody that I'm not thinking of. Let me know, I mean, even if I mention them, but let me know somebody that it's not like a popular take to pick at 12. Like, let me know who you want them to take in the second round. Let me know, hey, we really need to lead the draft with Hunter Salas. Let me know, hey, you didn't talk about my guy in the second round. Let's just pick out a name here. You didn't talk about Chaz Lanier. You didn't talk about Sion James. Let me know. Let me know who's your like you would love to have them on this team. Like, not a guy that you think necessarily you have to take at 12, but a guy that you think I can see. Like, Nick Clifford's a perfect example of what I'm saying. You probably don't take him at 12, but if you could find a way to get him, you get him. Let me know who that guy is for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.